last part of the series. I've been watching these videos I'm recording everything in one go. Well, these last 3 parts in one go because I'm really enjoying this series and I'm already recording. Everything is already set up, so I'm just continuing the session. The last one, 9 minutes, the city where they murdered Yugoslavia. It's a heavy topic, you know. I'm really a fan of our history and of the things and the periods of our time and how rich our history is. And it's really hard to be confronted, to say so, with this once again, and to have all those memories flash by again, and to see opportunities and have this as a topic again, because I still till this day see so much potential, so much things that could have gone way differently than they actually went in history. And it's just, I don't know, I would love to be a time traveler, to go back in history to like some kind of superpowers today. I could be invisible and change certain history events to prevent the bloodshed in that whole region. Let's take a look at this last part. Some things in the last video particularly is getting summarized way too small without back information, things without going into the details, say. So he's keeping the red line on the global overview and not going into too much details. I wish he made like another 5-part series where he goes into the details of certain subjects. That would be really, really cool. So I don't know if Rare Earth watches my videos or will see my videos ever again, but if they do, I would really prefer that. So let's check out the last part.
Bosnian War happened because a war criminal in waiting didn't care where his ideology led him. In this video, the final in our 5-part series, I intend to show you how. Ratko Mladic did not believe in Yugoslavia, but he did believe in the unity of his people, at least as he saw them. And in his attempt to get to that natural dead end, he would destroy the dream of Gavrilo Princip. He would destroy all the work of Tito. Because just like those confident killers of the past, he was absolutely certain he was right. But he was a monster. And the actions that he would take in Srebrenica and Sarajevo would earn him a spot in the history of war crime. Of course, in his mind, he's no monster. In many Bosnian Serb minds, he's actually considered a hero. To the ethnically hyper-nationalist, he did exactly what they wanted. He murdered.
They see him as a hero. He conquered land from the Bosnians by killing all the people living there. And the worst part from all of this is that they got their own independent republic because of the West. They gave him where he killed the piece of land for which he killed so many people. And I still, till this day, cannot believe that the Dayton Agreement has been signed to give a part of Bosnia to Serbia after destroying and killing so many people there to take that land as a goal. So he basically gave them the achievement, the goal that they wanted to reach. You gave it to them. Officially on a piece of paper. You basically said, yeah, good job guys for killing so many civilians and people. And there you go. Let's continue the video. Oh, this is the memorial, by the way, in Sarajevo for all the kids that have fallen in the siege of Sarajevo during the Balkan War.
Murdered a bunch of Muslims and fought for a greater Serbia. After all, they say, he was only doing what the Ustazi and Bosniak Ottomans had done to them in their own time. But the problem with that was this wasn't their own time. They hadn't done it. Someone in the past had. This was a new time, a post-Tito time. A time when it would not be wrong to say that a majority of people still preferred national unity over sub-ethnic division.
Exactly.
It's one thing to want more autonomy. It's another entirely for an extremist minority to want to genocide innocent, neutral civilians to get it. When talking about Yugoslavia's collapse, it's important to remember that most of its citizens didn't want it to happen. Few wanted to dissolve, least of all the man who set it in motion. After 50 years of Tito, most people were Yugoslav nationalists first and ethnic nationalists second.
Exactly. Most of the people were like that. And then the propaganda and the brainwashing starts. And media. Fuck media. Seriously. Newspapers who write shit can destroy countries because people believe it. So fuck people as well, besides the media.
And those who did complain tended to do so within a framework of a still unified nation. It's not just because they'd go to prison if they didn't, although they probably would, but more that they simply just wanted more autonomy for their states. They wanted more rights for minorities in other states. A bit like the way they delineate rights in the United States today, except with a bit less nuanced ethnic and religious differences. But the problem with nationalism in a multicultural empire is that once you start thumping those drums, everybody hears the beat differently. The same fire that had burned down the Avar, the Austrian, and the Ottoman empires would soon bring down theirs as well. The dream of Yugoslavia collapsed because men like Mladic were willing to kill the wounded animal just so they could get an early start on eating its corpse. Although he'd once been all those things, as soon as the war broke out, he was no longer a communist. He was no longer a Yugoslav. He was no longer a Bosnian. He was just a Serb. And because that's what he chose to be, it was only inevitable that he would bring a genocide to the people of Sarajevo. How do you even describe it? A war against civilians, against innocent people, children. I think we don't like to talk about this stuff because we're civilians. And as soon as we realize how easy it was for it to happen to them, we know it can happen to us. But that's precisely why we should look at it. These were real people. I know they may serve as examples of horror now, but they were real people. And I think that's really important to remember. I can make this finale about Milosevic, I can make it about Mladic, but those guys, they all get the fame. They're not the real story. They're the monsters. The story I care about are the people who this cycle of violence destroyed, because Sarajevo was everybody. They mixed here. There were Muslims, Jews, Christians, atheists. It was a society of people.
That's what made Bosnia the link between all those countries, because there were Bosnian Serbs, Muslims, like everyone was living together in Bosnia. It was one big mix of all the surrounding countries that formed Yugoslavia. And that's what made it the society, like he calls it. It still is, till this day, beautiful to live there, and less than it was, since there now is, of course, ethnic tension, hate, religious tension and hate. But yeah, he has described this very well, and it's really, really touching me, of course, listening to this.
Of Yugoslavs. And it was these people who suffered the most. So I want to talk about some of them. Dragan Martincevic was a Bosnian Serb. But he's no ethnic nationalist. He was a Bosnian first. And perhaps due to having fallen...
What I also tell in my videos, you can be something else, but be a Bosnian first. So for political reasons, so that the country can function as one. You can be a Serb, a Bosnian Serb, but be Bosnian first. And then, you know, everyone started linking religion to nationality and ethnicity to nationality. Just fucking stop the bullshit. It's all bullshit what people are not realizing.
Fallen in love with a Bosniak woman, he'd realized that other people deserved to be Bosnian too. What would his 3-year-old child be if not Bosnian? His dream was of a people united, a nation that prided itself on its history rather than divided itself by it. Which is exactly what the paramilitaries mocked him for when they tortured him. 8 months they held him, 8 months away from his child. Speaking of children, Nermin Divovic was 5 when Bosnia's Serbs started bombing his city. They set up in a ring on the mountains around town. Mountains he was too young to remember playing in. Mountains he would never touch again. It was 2 years into the siege when a sniper put a bullet through his brain. So it goes. Same bullet ripped through his mother, but it was enough to draw his father back from the front lines So mission accomplished, I guess.
You can see that it is touching him as well. He's really having a hard time telling it, so... You're not the only one, man. You're not the only one.
1,500 children would be killed in this city. Almost 15% of all dead. Target the kids, don't target the kids. Who knows what they were told to do. But those kids, they all died. They killed them all anyway. Nobody imagined this was going to happen. This was an incredible, cosmopolitan, happily multicultural city. The nation had been united for 50 years, and this was its heart, the heart of both Bosnia and Yugoslavia, a place where people quite simply just got along.
Exactly. And a lot of people say, no, that's not true. It was the heart of Yugoslavia. This city, not only the city, but the country itself was the heart of Yugoslavia.
It was beautiful, so incredibly beautiful, with a mix of Turkish and European influence that created one of the most unique cityscapes on the planet.
It still is until this day. For me, the most beautiful city that I've ever visited, and I visited a lot of cities.
They called it the Jerusalem of Europe, and they were right. But in the hills above this city, on that ridgeline, on every ridgeline, those soldiers stood and they bombed the heart out of Sarajevo. For 4 years, they stood up there and just rained hell on the civilians of this city. They killed children standing in the street. They killed people on their balconies. They bombed grandmothers in their homes. They put this place into such a bad position that people here would end up using cigarettes as currency. For nearly half a decade, this city was no longer part of the rest of the world. It was a prison surrounded by murderers.
What did the West do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The UN is a big joke to me. And now you're realizing why. The European Union is a big joke to me when it comes to multiple fronts. Not for everything, but to multiple fronts is a big joke to me. The media, the bullshit, the lies they tell you, it's disgusting. I disgust and despise politics and politicians. Lying on such a big scale. You're the biggest liar ever. And then they tell you, never again, never again. In modern day history, look at Syria, what happened there. Everything gets bombed to shit. Civilians, people, everyone. What is the West doing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, they send a couple of food planes and some fucking bombers. Youpie! Yeah, that's gonna save a country. Ridiculous.
Other than a few tunnels they dug to get the bare necessities of life, it was nothing more than a shooting gallery, a way to make their military submit by murdering families back home. But they couldn't submit. They had every reason to believe that if they did, they would just kill them all. Look at Srebrenica to the north. They'd walked an entire town into a mass grave. Radko Mladic walked 8,000 people into a mass grave, rounded up everyone and just shot them. Dust. They hadn't fled town because they thought they were safe. They weren't in the war. They didn't want to be in the war. Why would anyone kill them? They were Yugoslavs. It's an easy thing to say you have a historical right to a bit of land or whatever. It's an easy thing to say that this is just how politics works. But to stand in front of a piece of military hardware and just kill children because you want more power, because someone in the past did it to someone who shares your personal form of identity, that's evil. Ethnic nationalism is the lowest form of nationalism because it doesn't stop until everyone's in their corners burying their dead. Again and again and again.
And the worst part is it can never end. It cannot end. It's impossible to destroy an entire group of people in a country. It's impossible. Always some will survive and it will rebuild itself over the generations if you do not exterminate it entirely. And I don't know how sick you have to be in your mind, in your head, to pull a trigger on a civilian. Innocent people, to round them up and to pull a trigger. In warfare, soldier against soldier, I understand. But like, having someone stand in front of you, in front of a mass grave and just shooting. They say America and the West set up and Russia set it up to destroy all of this. And there's a whole backstory on this information as well that he's not mentioning at all, but I do agree that a large part of that is true, but I always say that might be true, but in the end, they did not pick up the arms. The people picked up the arms. They did not pull the trigger. The people who picked up the guns, they pulled the trigger. The Bosnians, the Serbs, the Croatians, they pulled the triggers. They decided to do so with their mind. You don't have to believe the politicians, right? You can use this. Nope. They all pulled the triggers.
They call Ratko Mladic the butcher of Bosnia. And they're not wrong. But the real butcher was always the divide. The gyre had moved so far from the center that despite everyone looking back with hope, they knew they would never reach it again. This is rare earth.
Exactly. We'll never reach that state of unity again. Probably never again. Because of this. We have overcome bigger things and bigger stuff in the history, but this is one of the biggest and it's the most recent, so that's why I say a unity can probably never happen again. But when it comes to economics, politics, sports, maybe there can be some more agreement or more unity when it comes to that level. But that's about it. I don't know what to say anymore about this. It's a really good documentary, Rare Earth. So I really appreciate them for making this. The way they did it, there's way more to be told, and I understand that they leave out the details and other stuff for a very good reason, and it will take too much time and everything. But this explains the main story in a big line the best. So I hope you guys like this series. If you did, leave a like down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, but also to Rare Earth channel. And I see you in the next video, hopefully something that's more fun to say. So this was like really a sad episode. I see you in the next one. Ciao.
Perfect.